Something real. Say something real.
Say something real.
Good morning. Good morning. What's happening, family? Welcome to the Shizzo. It is Michelle Bryant here at WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. You are listening to Say Something Real. Jermaine, what was all of that? What was the need to what was that?
I felt the need to put some melody on that.
You must still be feeling the
Yeah, from
effects of
yesterday.
the Easter
Listen
events.
here, let me tell you something.
Look, I got up last night to go get some gas at midnight, and I could swear I saw some folks still leaving the church.
Yeah,
from Michelle.
pretty much.
What
Yeah.
time
Listen,
did y'all leave the Easter concert, Easter bash? What time did y'all? Because both of y'all went, right?
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
What
Yeah.
time did y'all leave at?
I left
Look,
after
I was
Passover.
like, yep.
I left after Passover.
I'm still there.
I left after Passover.
Did you say you still
I'm
there,
there.
Devo?
Yeah. Long
Oh
day.
my God.
Listen,
When I listened to the lineup, I said, no.
That ain't gonna be for me.
but I do have to say this though.
I can't be tied up my whole week with Michelle.
A week? You need a whole year. With that lineup, boy, people are still there. They just sleep. They spent the night.
I said I can't be tied up my whole week with Michelle. I just want to say this though, because we go to a lot of events, and we getting charged $100. Some folks done got bold. They charge $250
Wow.
to come. Oh yeah, it's some foolishness going on in the city. $250 to come to an event, and I mean I get it. It's for charity. It's all that. I'm not giving you $250, and I just want to say Michelle Pitts for $50.
She did the thing.
Nobody will leave her event talking about some, I don't know. You got your money's worth 10 times over.
Got
Even
somebody
if
else's
your-
money too.
Even
And
Somebody else's money too.
even if your sugar was high, you still you still got
Yeah, but Michelle,
your
keep
money's
in
worth.
mind,
What?
at 1:00 she opens the doors, and you go in there and you got 9 to 10 different caterers all the way around that banquet
Oh
facility,
my
and that's
God.
all in
9
that
to
ticket.
10 different
Yeah,
caterers.
it's all in that ticket. Lisa Kay was there. Baby Back Willie cooked. There was several different ones at different
I
stations.
just thought it was like one little set
Oh,
meal,
no.
and
Oh,
you just,
no,
you
no,
get
no.
your green beans,
No,
your dinner roll,
That's why I
Yo,
said
yo,
even if your
piece of
sugar,
chicken,
even if your sugar,
some corn.
Yeah.
No,
No,
you had a like.
This is like no other.
Oh my God!
But the funniest thing, I was in the hallway talking to a couple people, and this is right-handed God. I
Uh-oh.
looked in their purse and saw that they
Aluminum
had
foil.
aluminum foil with a pick and save garbage bag with food in it. I said,
But
this
now
My former
it's
mother-in-law.
supposed to be all you can eat here,
Mm-mm.
not all you can eat and then
Mm-mm.
take home and eat some more.
Well,
My former
this year
mother-in-law, would do that.
officially they stopped the Tupperware bowls from coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So people was bringing their own Tupperware.
they went from
take that to the
Tupperware.
car, then come back and eat.
Stop
They went
it,
from-
Gino.
No,
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Listen.
I'm serious.
I was
See.
standing in the hallway. This is the honest to God
I can't
truth.
say see enough times.
I was standing in the hallway talking to somebody, and I just so happened to look to my right and look down, and in their purse,
You saw some foil.
aluminum foil, a pick and save bag, and it was filled.
I'm telling you.
And they said to me, "I paid my money." I
That-
said,
that don't
but
mean-
I thought,
you supposed to take all the
yeah,
food.
I'm like,
See,
you're supposed to all you can eat here.
people mess it up for everybody else.
Yeah.
People just mess it up. But yeah, my mother-in-law, she would go to the casino and they would have a chicken.
Yeah, Lord.
And she'd go say, get a plate.
Help
a
Yep.
us, Lord.
chicken, and then she'll sit there and just push it all to the edge of
Yeah.
her purse. I'm like, for real,
I
Mom,
ain't even gonna lie
I'm gonna
to
need you
you.
to stop that.
I think I'm the reason why Ponderosa shut down.
See,
Stella now.
I just
My Stella love.
Yeah, on King Drive. Cause Sunday after church.
I don't know. Wait. Well, no, because when I went, they was rationing your food out.
Yeah, but we took over.
Well, they was rationing. I was like, I'm not coming back because
When were they? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
yeah, they had them people standing there giving you a teaspoon of
Oh, because that's Jermaine had been through there.
Hey, yeah, then we
teaspoon of
came
green
through and
beans
wrecked the house.
I was like, every Ponderosa I ever been to, it was self-serve.
Yeah, this one right there.
What was
That
going on?
we,
Except
that
for
we
the
took
meat?
over.
Yeah, so I didn't go no more because I was like, no, y'all can't be rationing me out.
Truth be told, them church folks will run you out of business.
Yeah.
They will run you clean out of business.
Listen, one last thing before you move on.
Okay.
You know how I talk about that commercial when I hear Shell say, Willie Rogers, woo!
Yeah.
Listen here. Willie Rogers is the truth. He had me in the corner like, woo!
Seriously?
I'm like,
Hello.
this cat here, man.
Can we pull up some of his music? I'm not familiar.
Oh, man,
Uh,
Will,
Yeah, pull
boy.
up something so when we go to a break, or
I
something, we
felt
can
like
hear his
Michelle
music.
over there. I was like, you know, she
Willie
was like,
used to
oh,
sing
Willie,
with
woo!
Sam Cooke and those guys.
Oh, he used to sing with,
Yeah.
oh, really?
And to hear him, you if you close your eyes,
Oh,
you
that's
would not
Sam
know.
all day.
You
Really?
would not know that you're
All
not listening
day.
to Sam Cooke.
I
Please pull up
said,
some of his
oh,
stuff. I've never
my-
heard him.
And then he did
Gate swing
On
open.
by the River. I said,
Oh, he did that
Lord
one,
have
okay.
mercy.
Oh, really? So yeah, pull it up.
Sam Cooke all
Well,
day,
I'm gonna
but-
tell you,
Yeah.
I heard gunshots by our house, which is unusual.
That didn't
Yeah,
come from
but
the Easter
somebody got
Bash.
killed.
That
And
did
I
not come
thought-
from the Easter
yeah,
Bash.
because I'm off 170
Yeah, but
Calumet.
yeah, Plaza.
Some around here.
Yeah.
But that seemed like that was, I don't know where it was, but I heard some stupid gunshots last night.
What over?
Yeah,
By,
that was like off of like 170, like Good Hope, like Park Place. Like
Yeah,
over there,
I knew I
somebody got
heard it, and
killed.
I mean it was ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. It was like
Yeah.
a lot.
and
and
what
I
you
was
got
like-
a
I
two-way
thought it was
radio
people
with the
trying to get
police. You
out
be
of the,
knowing everything.
gospel.
Hey man, I
Out
told
of
you I
the
You
turned
East
know
state.
Bay.
all the accidents and
I told
everything
you
that
I turned
happened.
state.
I thought it was somebody trying to shoot their way out the Easter Bay.
You better stop
Let me
it.
out of here.
You better stop it.
Let me out of here. Been here too long.
Somebody
Church folks
said
had their fans up in there.
they had the fans.
Oh, they had their fans.
The dance fans, the big
Oh
fans.
yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
What? I need one now. My glasses keep fogging up. What is going on? Somebody said I'm upset at the heavy eaters who ate all the lamb chops. I'm ready to march. They took all the pound cake and the lamb chops and old school pound cake too.
I was
Okay,
upset
so-
when I got over there and all the catfish was gone. I wanted me some deep fried catfish yesterday.
You know what? Well, I need to come clearly just for the eating part. too.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is amazing. It is amazing.
Okay, I don't know why my glasses keep fogging up. Well, let me just say, good morning, the bros. I'm assuming that wraps up y'all weekend.
Yeah, it does.
A day.
I mean, Debo said he's still there, so
Yeah, it
I'll
takes
check
your
in with
whole
Debo
weekend.
tomorrow about his weekend. I just want to say, first of all, good morning, Adeline. I saw your text just roll through. Good morning, Deborah. Hey, Alex. It's people that I know, like clockwork. I'm gonna hear from. Good morning. Hey, Shelby, what's happening? And I want to say hello to a sister I just met on my way coming into the building. Belinda. She driving the bus, and I ended up having a moment to speak with her. And she said it's a bunch of babies that's on the bus that listen to the show. And so, see, I got to act right first. That's why I tell you I try to act right before 7:45. So I just want to say good morning, sis. It was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for keeping those babies safe and getting them where they're supposed to be on time. And hopefully I'll get a chance to say hi to the students. So
Is that legal, Michelle,
what?
for her to expose them kids to you? Did she have to get like a parental slip signed by the parents that they can listen?
She didn't have me on the bus. She hollered at me through the window.
No, I mean that she tunes in.
You know what? Whatever, bro.
Yeah, 'cause
Anyway,
that
anyway.
might need parental
All right. So
PG sometime.
I'm moving past you. So let me just say, I will only say one thing about my weekend because it's so much to get to. But I had a chance to go to see the musical play about Cher from Sonny and Bono Cher,
Mhm.
over at the Market Center for the Performing Arts. Now let me tell you, it was about 12 black people there. Sold out, house packed to the rafters. An older demographic. Um, but when I tell you that the women who, because three different women played Cher at
Mhm.
different points in her life and her career, the women that played these parts were so phenomenal.
Mhm.
And I forgot, how many Cher songs I knew. And when I say that you got reminded of the pageantry of her costumes and those headdresses. I mean, this production was so much more than I even expected.
Mhm.
I was so glad that I got a chance to go. But I'm gonna tell you too what tripped me out. Just as because it talked about Cher's life, how she got started, how she meets Sonny Bono, their marriage, then the little rocky part, them splitting up. And one of the things that messed me up about their story, which I guess it was out there for public consumption, but I never realized it. Cher said that when they were getting ready to go through the divorce process, so they had created a company that was in her name, Cher something enterprises or whatever. But Sonny Bono made himself 95% owner of the company.
Mm.
His lawyer was the other 5%. So Cher found out as she's going through this process that she owned nothing. All of them years of working, being on the road, 50 million, albums sold, whatever, records sold, she owned nothing. And I'm telling you, I just had that. I mean, and so I was like singing that song, I got you, babe.
Yeah, that's
And
what I was
somebody
just
was like,
thinking.
yeah, he got her for real.
Yeah, he really did get her.
Messed her up. So that just stood out to me again. That question we was having about finances and understanding the money in your household,
Mhm.
know what's going on. I would have hurt that man. I would have hurt that man.
Well,
She owned nothing. And he told her, I will make sure you're taken care of. And she looked at, like, is you crazy? Are you crazy?
well, that whole thing is really shiesty, especially if that's your partner and your wife, because the music business is cutthroat, and is you know get it while the getting is good. That's the motto in the music business, which again is shiesty. But for you to do your partner, let alone your wife, that way, is crazy.
And he
But
did that while things were good.
because he knew,
He knew.
They had the
Because
TV
you
show
gotta
and
give it.
everything.
Huh?
Remember the TV
Yeah.
show and
Yeah.
everything.
but that's the prime example of getting it while the getting is good.
Oh my God.
See what I'm saying? So it's he was shiesty about going about how he did it, which was completely wrong. And that's how the music industry is. The music industry that will rape you.
Well, I just was too I was too through with that aspect of it. But I just want to tell people that it was again at the Market Center. It was a phenomenal production. And I know that you can catch this play in other places, but I was blown away. I was blown away. So I just had to say that to go do something out of the norm, out of your comfort zone, because we was laughing, like me and Lakeisha went like, okay, so who's gonna be at this show? Because she has a huge LGBTQ following. Um, we just were like, who we gonna see? And actually ended up sitting next to people that we know that were at the show. So that was actually kind of cool. But yep, so I did that. But like a lot of people, let me just get to it right away. Woke up this morning, and actually I was awake when the news got announced. I couldn't sleep last night because I was working on some other stuff. That Pope Francis has passed away at the age of 88. And you know what? It's so crazy because people text me at all times of the day and night. And I have to be honest, I don't even always see the texts because of the volume of stuff that I get. But when he passed away, it's people working third shift that see this story break. And somebody texted me and they said, Michelle, why is he called the first Latin American pontiff? And It was a brother. And he said, maybe I should be embarrassed that I don't know this, but I'm not asking these people on the job. Can you help me understand? Because he's not American. So why are they calling him the first history's first Latin American pontiff? So before we even get into some of the information or just the remarks about the Pope, let me help folks with the Latin American piece. So Pope Francis is called the first Latin American Pope because he was born in Argentina, which is a Latin American country. Okay, so then you go like, well, wait a minute. I don't. Again, why the word American? Latin America, that term, primarily encompasses the countries of Central and South America, as well as parts of North America and the Caribbean or the Caribbean, depending on how you say it. So, we hear the word America and go straight to United States of America. But when you talk about it in the context of geography, it's a different way of looking at that. And so, number one, I respected and appreciated that the brother was willing to say, I don't know or I don't understand this. And, because people will just sit and go along with a conversation and act like they know, and then either go try to Google it later or figure it out. But so I thought that that was a great opportunity to even say that this morning on the show. So thank you to fam for reaching out and asking me that question. So that's why he is he is called or as known as the first Latin American pontiff to be selected in the history of the Catholic Church. And the thing about this Pope, and I remember him coming off Pope Benedict, who was a whole hot mess. Flashy, Gucci loafers, red Gucci loafers. He pulled out papal robes that, were so ornate. They had been in the vaults. And I think he was on the cover of Vogue coming down the stairs. And you see him step out with them red Gucci loafers on, like, what? This the Pope? And so to go from that Pope to a Pope that was so just of the people. They called him the people's Pope, quite honestly. They talked about the fact that, like, when he was even finding out he was going to be the Pope and he had stayed at a hotel, he was going to pay for it himself. It was like, wait, what you doing? He becomes the Pope and he wants to fly and go somewhere and to talk about some issue. And he got on the phone and called an airline and made a reservation under his own name. And the airline called back, and was like, is this real? Like, what's going on over there? Why is the Pope calling trying to make, airline reservations? That's just how much of a regular dude Pope Francis, was. And so it is a lot to be said as people dissect what he meant to the church over the course of his tenure. But make no mistake, it is going to have a it's going to be a major decision in terms of the next person that they select and the direction of the church. Because one of the things that Pope Francis had done, and a lot of people, to some people's excitement, to other people's consternation, is he challenged this whole thing about, as a lot of folks have said, finger pointing. You're bad because you're not supposed to do this, wagging the finger. This is where we stand on abortion. This is where we stand on immigration. This is where we stand on whatever. And he talked about much more common issues, about the spirit of forgiveness and acceptance. He did not banish LGBTQ people, in terms of the way that a previous leadership in the Catholic Church had wanted folks pushed out. And, you are to call this a crime or you are to call this a sin. He wouldn't talk about it in that way because he talked about God creating and loving everybody. And at some point you really realize that he was saying it's not y'all job to judge who these people are. And you got to make sure that we understand the difference between what's a sin and what's a crime, and also what's a crime. So that part stood out for a lot of people. In terms of, immigration, he and the current administration, even when Trump was in previously, like, yeah, the Pope Francis was willing to lock horns around this whole issue of how we treat people that are fleeing because they are in some form of trouble. So there's a lot more I can say about him and will say, but of course, obviously, we here at the station join the world in acknowledging the passing of Pope Francis. And I know Keith will probably do a lot about, you know, this man, what he represented, the major issues that he took on. He talked about climate change and global environmental issues. He talked about environmental justice. Like, what? The Pope is talking about this stuff? So there's a lot that will be said. It wasn't a part of the show because everything happened quickly. We've gone through this before, though, where we explain the process, who's in charge until a new pope is selected. Just this morning, somebody said to me, "All right, I'm waiting on some black folks, some Africans, to be at the table. What's going on?" So the racial nuance behind leadership in the Catholic Church as well, and there was even some controversial moments when uh, people in the Jewish community got upset with the Pope because he was willing to acknowledge, what was going on uh, with other groups, and folks didn't like it. And the Pope was like, "Yeah, deal with that. Ain't got nothing to do with me." So I'm gonna take a quick break, but I just wanted to make sure that we certainly join everyone in paying our respects, and we'll do more detailed information. But just out the gate, got to acknowledge that Pope Francis was one of the greats, and even the way he engaged women, it's a lot to be said about him that brings a smile on my face. So I'll take a break and be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. So let me just say this. Somebody sent me a text and they said, hey, he just spoke yesterday. And then he passes, and I'm just paraphrasing, and then he passes, you know, over the course of the night. Like, do you think that was really him? So no conspiracies. Yeah, that was him. We all know, and we have had stories in our own families in which we can say, I was just talking to so and so and so. I was just talking to them. I have shared with folks that Dr. Lakeisha Myers' mom is in the hospital. And when I say the day that she went to the hospital, I had just helped her coming back from the doctor and was laughing and talking with her and went upstairs. And the next thing I know, one of the caregivers that was in the house was yelling and screaming for me to come downstairs and saying, Miss Gertha is not responsive. She's not responsive. And it's like 15 stairs to come downstairs. I almost fell like on the last floor trying to get downstairs. And when I got in her room, she was slumped over. And I thought she actually had passed. That's how critical the situation was. And but I had just talked to her. So, let's always keep that in mind. We know these things can happen in the blink of an eye, literally. And I have multiple examples. So yeah, so I would just and remember, he met with the vice president of the United States, actually gave him 3 Easter eggs to give to his children, and gave him a tie, some rosary. And it was interesting because he and JD Vance, he had got at JD Vance about U.S. immigration, and like, what y'all doing is wrong. And the way y'all doing people is wrong. The Pope has spoke out about Gaza. And, like, nah, this ain't how you handle this. And so, no, so we can, I think, let's just put it to bed. No conspiracies. We've seen it. We've seen where somebody is with us in 1 minute and literally, and we know that he was sick. We know that he had been very, very sick. He probably shouldn't have even been out yesterday, if truth be told. So I just wanted to take a second to address that. Let me do a couple of quick announcements. There are some things I think that the community should be aware of. As Wisconsin is getting ready to navigate familiar terrain, uncertainty around federal funding, the state biennial budget process, and everything that goes with trying to figure out, for this conversation, how we fund education. So there's a new effort that the superintendent, Jill Underly, is undertaking to better educate the public about how state, federal, and local funding directly impacts K-12 public schools and libraries. So there's going to be some informational sessions that she is doing. Funding the future, how federal and state dollars impact Wisconsin's schools and libraries. And the public will get a clearer view of the funding landscape in Wisconsin, its influence on local public education. These events that are going to be scheduled throughout the month of April are going to provide some real insight that from that 30,000 foot level that the DPI superintendent can offer. And so there is a session that is happening tonight in Wauwatosa at 6:30 to 7:30. And that's my only concern, is that you only hold a 1 hour session. So you literally are going to come in and do a presentation, maybe take 2 questions and get out. I think when you're trying to educate people, that those things need to be a little bit longer. That's just my personal view, but something is better than nothing. And so let me be the first to concede that as well. So there's an in-person event happening tonight, Wauwatosa Public Library, 7635 West North Avenue. And people are being encouraged to come out so you can hear directly from the superintendent about what is coming down the pike. We know that a number of funding dollars are in trouble or in jeopardy, and it behooves us all to understand what's going on with funding of federal education. I mean, federal funding of education, to the extent that we receive dollars. As we know that Trump is doing everything he can to skirt and sidestep the law in terms of, okay, it takes Congress to shut down the Department of Education. But if I strip away all the staff and I move programs like Pell Grants, into other agencies, student loans into other agencies, then I basically have shut it down and left the building standing. And that's exactly what he's attempting to do. So it is important that this conversation happen. There's going to be other opportunities to view it virtually. And if you go to the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction's website, there is a link that is found right there to be able to join the meeting that's happening on Thursday, April 24th. Again, 6:30 to 7:30. And I'm trying to see where else she's going to be. She's going to be up at Ashland. But for the ones that impact us immediately, and and I will also say this again, because you got Milwaukee Public Schools, which is the biggest school district in the state. And this meeting is being held in Wauwatosa. I ain't trying to be messy, but you just have to wonder sometime, kind of like what's going on. And maybe there was one and I missed it. I don't know. But again, I'm not going to be on that right now. I'm just going to be thankful for the information. So again, if you are somebody that cares about public education, K-12 funding, the impact that the federal government is having on these districts, there is an event for you tonight, 6:30 to 7:30, over at the Wauwatosa Library off of 76 and North Avenue. I wanted to make sure that you got that information. And then there is another event I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of. And it is a seminar that is happening over at the Daniel Mardak Boys and Girls Club on April 25th. What day is April 25th? That is that's Friday. And this is a youth violence conflict resolution seminar. So a group of concerned citizens have organized this event to provide guidance and solutions to youth violence that is impacting, our communities. And it's called the Youth Violence and Conflict Resolution Seminar. They have partnered with community leaders, community-based organizations worldwide. This is not just a local Milwaukee event or Wisconsin event. It's a national relationship. And so this is happening 4 to 6 p.m. on Friday over at the Boys and Girls Club over off of Mother Daniels Way. I'll give more information as we get closer to it, see if I can get somebody in to talk about it, because as we know, we complain a lot about and are concerned, rightfully so, about what we are seeing with young people going on around us. Here's somebody that's reaching out, trying to figure out, they say they coming to the table with some solutions. So if this is something that we are genuinely interested in, hopefully we will take advantage of that and be a part of that. All right. I wanted to make sure this, since I'm on school and young people for just a second. I don't know how many of you all have had an opportunity to see a clip that Holly Robinson Peete, actress Holly Robinson Peete, hanging with Mr. Cooper, actress who has a child that's autistic. He's a grown man now. And RFK Jr., Robert Kennedy Jr., in sounding the alarm about autism, this man said some of the most hurtful, ignorant, his comments were so disturbing that a number of people with children who have autism and folks, just who are medical professionals and who know better. They just like, how in the world can you be leading this agency and be this ignorant? I mean, he talked about, if you have a child with autism, they will have no quality of life. They'll never be able to even go to the bathroom on their own. They'll never be able to say I love you. They'll never have a job. They'll never pay. He started off by saying they'll never pay taxes. Like that's where he started it, with the nevers, the list of nevers. And so I had said I was going to pull up the clip from Holly Robinson Pete, who eloquently, clapped back at RFK Jr. like, basically, you stupid. And these people should not give you this platform to get out here and say these hurtful things. I know young people who have autism. I remember a young African American girl who has autism, who helped to get legislation or to get policies changed so that young people could have widgets in classrooms. Widgets were seen like a toy. No, fidgets. Is it called fidgets? Let me look and see. But it was like a toy that young people with autism, it had a calming effect on them. It helped them to focus. And she was able to get this done in school. So teachers didn't look at these like they were toys, and that they could actually help students who were autistic. And I went to her house to meet her. Bright, capable, thoughtful, and none of the stuff that RF Kennedy Jr. is describing. And so it is so frustrating that our systems have been turned over to some of the most incompetent people on the planet. And you have folks that's just willing to sell us all down the river for power. Like, look at what's happening with this whole situation about measles right now. When I tell you that we were supposed to be done with measles outbreaks, let alone children dying from measles in 2025, but because of misinformation about vaccinations and people making you think, that there is some conspiracy and it's unsafe, and don't let your children get vaccinated, and the number of parents who were saying, I'm not vaccinating my kids. But I want you to understand that the measles has no cure. There is no antiviral. There's no, like, your kid's not going to get measles and you're like, oh yeah, we'll treat it with da 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 da. We'll do this, we'll do that. You have let people who are not physicians in many cases convince you not to do something that's been tried and proven in millions of people around the world to work. And yes, there will always be an exception to any medication. There will be somebody that dies in a clinical trial. There will be people that have side effects. I mean, we hear them when the commercial runs for a medication. Try Tylenol. Side effects: it may cause internal stomach bleeding. It may cause, bowels and diarrhea. It may cause death. You hear it because we know that different people can react, to medications, but overwhelmingly, the majority, and I don't know what the threshold is, if as long as 80% of the people don't have these side effects, we can bring this to market. But the idea that we are now seeing measles cases that have not been around in some states since 1990. Y'all, we have got to push back on the crazy. And people have got to be willing not just to do your own research, but to talk to some medical professionals, Lord. We shouldn't be here. We should not be here. But, and then, RFK Jr. has the audacity to go meet the parents of a child that's died. Like, what you coming to say? What are you coming to talk about? So I am imploring people in our community, if you are a person that's been on the fence. You have young children, because now they're asking people to get that measles shot at 6 months old for their children instead of 1 year old because of these cases and these outbreaks now. So we're seeing even that be impacted by the decisions and the misinformation that's being put out there. We got some folks on the phone line. Let's get them in. Hey,
No, I
caller,
didn't
what's
even
happening?
notice it. Hey, Michelle, I just got something real quick to say. It's just the incompetency from the top down. I'm pretty sure you're probably going to talk about XX, how he
Oh,
shared
for sure.
those communications with his wife and his brother and his lawyer, and it's just Michelle. It just leaves your head scratching. What is wrong with this country that you had these, and a lot of these people are still following this dude. I mean, we talk about some people that say they still got buyer's remorse now, but you'd be surprised, Michelle. No, you wouldn't be. But how many people are still backing this administration and this president? It's just beyond me, Michelle. I don't know, man. I don't know if you watch Superman, and I say it all the time. We living in a bizarre world right now because I can't even scratch my head. You would think that this whole country be in an uproar just from the fact of how groceries are going up, what's going on with our 401k1 and the stock market and stuff. You would think you thought what you saw on January 6th was bad. And he's talking about deporting Americans to that prison system over there, but he gonna pardon those people. It's just like, come on, man. What's going on with the American people, Michelle? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the call. Let me get the next caller in, and then I'll respond to what George said. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hi, Michelle. This is Angela.
Hey, Angela. Good morning.
How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm blessed. I'm just calling in because I'm just surprised that that so-called president that we have ain't said nothing stupid about the Pope. And I'm so sorry that he passed away on the day he did. But, God knew what he was doing. But I'm just like, with Kennedy saying what he said about these children that's all, they got that, I forgot the name of what you were saying. That's artistic.
Yes.
I'm just baffled. Why the hell would they even attack children or any adult that has that? You know what I'm saying? They stupid. Under Trump, everybody that's under him is very stupid. And I hope you hear me down the top with your stupid ass. I'm mad.
Angela.
I'm so sorry for cussing.
Thank you, Angela.
But hi, Ryder. Hi, Debo.
Hello, Angela.
I appreciate the call.
You guys have a good day.
All right, now got another caller. Let's get them in.
She should have came to church.
Because I get the frustration now, man. But I tell people like, and I want to be clear, this isn't the first time that we've been ignorant as a populace and people in this country. And obviously I'm not talking about everybody, but any country that allows chattel slavery, that started the way we started by stealing and bogarting and taking people's stuff, like there's been something wrong in this country. And, so I would love to say this is the manifestation of this, and this, but we got roots. And that's why people want to lie about history and ask you to look the other way and not be truthful about our origins and the way we've treated people over the years, and who in fact has privilege and who does not, and who has access and who does not, and who should have power and who should not. Like, this ain't new, y'all. I've always said, what kind of disgusting people not only allowed chattel slavery, but then stood there and had get-togethers and dressed in their finest clothes to come watch somebody be lynched from a tree? It's a special kind of ignorant and sick. That's in the DNA of this country. And they want to lie about it. They don't want us to talk about it. And you got black folks telling you, move on from it. You're going to have to drag me and bury me before I forget about it. So that's the other part of this, why we got to pay attention on all fronts. There is a concerted effort underway to make us believe that some of this is new and it's policy. This is how y'all get down. This is what y'all do. It is some people in this country that is so, oh my God, where did they dig you up from? That you okay with the treatment of people. And I'm going to tell you, and Carly, here I come, but I've said this before on the show. When you are not impacted by something, sometimes it's hard to have empathy or, really be able to fully appreciate and understand what people are going through. I always say, one of my friends had as a school assignment, she was in college, she had to go see the movie Brokeback Mountain. And that's about homosexuality. And I was like, man, I'm not going to see that. Like, no, I'm not going to see that. And she was like, Michelle, it's a school assignment. I was just like, I'm just not trying to go see it. Now, it's not because like, oh, I got a problem with gay people. I just didn't want to go see it. I'm like, this ain't my issue. I ain't trying to go see it. But I went. One of the best things I ever did. Because when I understood that people were being killed for no other reason than that they loved differently. They hadn't assaulted nobody's child. They hadn't raped nobody. They hadn't, harmed nobody. They was minding their own business with like-minded people. And the way these people were beaten and killed for that, it changed the way I advocated and talked about LGBTQ issues. So while Angie, I appreciate that frustration, but man, to a great extent, this is who a lot of these people are. They ain't need Donald Trump. They we was already on this. Yeah. The train was rolling. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Well, good morning. First thing I want to say is don't turn a blind eye on these Jews, because the Jews ain't all what they cranked up to be, because a lot of them ain't nothing but converted European, and a lot of them can be just as racist as well. They just don't want their truth to come out with them split Shirley Temple curls. And also, this thing with abortion, a lot of these white men are upset because, see, they think they're superior mentally, but a lot of their white women won't let that white man fertilize their ovaries with that white seed because it's not wanted. And it was Kyle Langford, I believe, in California, who was saying maybe the immigrants can stay if they would let one of them white men impregnate them, because white women ain't trying to be fertilized by no white babies. So that's something that's going on with them. And then I have also noticed it's been a lot of ties with Republican and rape, but they're not going after the grown women, they're going after the babies. And that's the issue for me. Why do you want to rape the babies when you got women out giving away for free? And a lot of these MAGA people, there's a link to rape and pedophilia with the babies. So we got to pay attention to that. But the Jews, you watch them Jews, because a lot of them act like they so good and great, and they ride on skin color and hair too, just like some of these pale Hispanics. You take that skin color and hair, they won't be nobody. Have a good day.
All right, thank you. Let me just say this, because this is the second time I've heard Al made reference to the long curls, the side curls that some members of men in the Jewish community practice. And you usually tend to see this in Orthodox Jewish communities. So I'm gonna just say this: while I certainly, people got the right to say if they want to, but you got to know when you are expressing a frustration about the way people behave. Sometimes you got to also make sure you're not behaving in the same way. And in this case, making fun of something that I don't necessarily understand or may not even want to understand. But that hairstyle, which is rooted in their religious practices and in the Torah's prohibition against, quote, rounding off the corners of your head. So this is something that is taken from Leviticus 19 chapter verse 27, which states, "You shall not round off the corners of your head." And it is their way of fulfilling that commandment and honoring Jewish tradition. So the only thing I'm going to just say is, to give respect, you get respect. I'm sorry, to get respect, you give respect. And there's no reason to come for people when you see something that is rooted in religious tradition. Um, I just, because that, like I said, it's the second time I heard it. I meant to address it the last time I heard it. I can dislike things that you do without also attacking who you are in terms of your faith. Don't become what we don't like. Don't become what people do to us, because we have a lot of traditions and things that we do and the way we rock. Remember, we got women now going to court to sue because people didn't like our hair. They ain't like our hair. And they made us perm our hair to get a job in corporate America. And now we finding out that we were getting cancer from these perms. So when you and we had to come out, and former state representative Lakeisha Myers and Senator Taylor and others, they introduced the Crown Act, because you trying to tell me how I can wear my hair as a black person. You can't wear braids. These kids who being put out of school because you got locks. So there's no difference between locks and somebody with those curls hanging down. Go, was your mic on? I didn't
No,
know.
no, no. I was just saying, I'm glad, man, that you said that, because that's like the same thing as a black man that we go through when they look at our hair and
Right.
say that it's dreadful and all this other stuff. And, that's,
Yeah.
that's a term and that they put towards locks, because, they want people to look at locks as being a bad thing.
Right. Something to
So,
make fun of,
yeah.
or, scary. And so, Al, when you do that, you do the exact same thing that we are asking people not to do to us. Let me take a break. I'll be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, folks. So George, in his phone call this morning, he mentioned Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, who has no business on God's green earth being in the role that he is currently as the defense secretary. Pete Hegseth, who replaced a African-American man with credentials that were impeccable, who basically comes in with, in some cases, completely lacking experience in terms of management and leadership of an organization. His resume was embarrassing given the position that he was being considered for. Again, another aspect of DEI that is frustrating, because as so many primarily white Republican men run around talking about people being given opportunities to have jobs and get access to employment because they, are potentially incompetent, underqualified. We have example after example after example of white men in the Trump administration getting jobs that they should be nowhere near allowed to apply for. And I'll call this out on either side of the aisle, that not just white men, but men in general who frequently are given opportunities to have employment that people of color and women could never get some of these jobs. So Pete Hegseth has been on a firing rampage at the Department of Defense. There was rumors that his chief of staff was fired, but they said no, he wasn't fired. He was reassigned. Top advisors, Dan Codwell, got escorted out of the Pentagon last week. Darren Selnick, another member, fired last week. In fact, most of the leadership team at the Department of Defense has been fired, reassigned, moved around. And they have said that in some cases, it's about leaks or information getting out. And even though these people who've been let go haven't been given anything formally to be told what they were accused of doing, but that's kind of been the innuendo, is that, they were not protecting confidential information and blah, blah, blah. So they had to go. So people get asked to resign, you get pushed out. Well, then NBC News reports, based on investigative work done by the New York Times, that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth used his personal phone to send information about U.S. military operations in Yemen to a 13-person Signal group chat that included his wife, his brother, his personal attorney. And he did so even after an aide warned him to be careful not to share sensitive information on an unsecure communication system before the Yemen operation happened. Did you hear what I just said? I know you did, because I know you've seen the news, because it's everywhere. His wife, for people that don't know, is a former reporter at Fox News. Why are you telling your wife, down to the time that the attacks on the Houthis are going to be executed, why are you telling your wife that information? And his brother, who works for the government but doesn't have that level clearance, that shouldn't be in these conversations. And why is your personal attorney being told, even though the attorney also works with the government, but again, that's not his role. He's not cleared at that level to have this information. And yet you got Republicans running around to anyone that will listen, telling you, move on. Nothing to see here. No big deal. There was no classified information, but you lying because they know what was in these messages. This dude is telling people what time it's getting ready to jump off. People were worried about folks being able to be located by some of the information that was included in this. Why is your wife at the house included? First of all, why you using Signal is just beyond the pale to even like understand that piece of it. But why are you telling your wife, man? This is not pillow talk. This ain't a, ooh, honey, look how important I am now. Look at how unqualified I am, but the level of access that I have to U.S. government information. Just a few months ago, I was giving news reports on Fox. Look at us, baby. We doing the damn thing now. That's all it amounts to. It's somebody who has no business in this role being geeked and amped and excited because you now important, you impotent, and you telling your wife, look at me, baby, look at what I'm doing. And your brother. And they said he's taking his wife and his brother with him on trips that people are looking kind of sideways at, like, really? Should they be on that trip? But then go back and remember the Republicans and their zeal for information regarding Hillary Clinton and any security breaches and her email server and, what Hillary didn't do or did do that put the American people and the American military, Benghazi, remember Benghazi, in harm's way. Republicans spent $82 million in 4 different investigations of Hillary Clinton. $82 million. Then they spent an additional $22 million on just the Benghazi hearings. The Benghazi hearings cost the American people $8,000 a day. And on these committees, which has unchecked spending, unlimited spending, they ran up $22 million in investigations of Benghazi to have nothing come of it. In fact, none of the investigations resulted in Hillary Clinton being disciplined in any way. But Jim Jordan running to get in front of the microphone, we're going to get to the bottom of this. She was awful, national security. But this man, the man from the newspaper put the text chain out there. You clearly have violated federal law about who you sharing this information with. The hypocrisy of it all is too much. And Donald Trump screaming from the rafters, we've got to do something about this. This cannot stand. Blah, 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 blah. We care about our armed forces. I keep telling y'all, these people be lying about Back the Blue. They be lying about law enforcement and the military. These members of law enforcement and the military are simply puppets and vehicles for Republicans to do the dirt that they want to do. And they wrap themselves in the flag. Ain't nobody more patriotic than them. But you got somebody who is a clear threat to national security. Underqualified. Wait, I'm lying. Unqualified, not under, because that implies some semblance of being qualified. Unqualified. But yet, no, we're not concerned. Nothing to see here. And they will tap dance in front of a camera, look you dead in your face and lie and tell you this wasn't no big deal. But Hillary Clinton, when I tell you that woman sat like a G for what was that, 13 hours of interview, of questioning before the committee, I think it was like 13 hours. Hillary Clinton sat. I said, let me be clear. If you don't understand the strength and determination of a woman, poised under fire to the end. I was like, it's a whole bunch of men couldn't have did what Hillary just did without getting irritated, agitated, and blowing their top. But Pete Hegseth gets to fire people claiming that they leaked some national security information, but you're not getting ready to be held to the same standard. There is no foaming at the mouth of national security hawks in the Republican Party to say this is wrong. We got to do something. Yeah, we doing some little lightweight committee investigations. The Democrats have called for something much more stringent, but we tap dancing, we soft pedaling, we gonna get to it. We might get to it. We really ain't gonna get to it. See, that's the part about a lot of this that has people so like can't watch the news, can't sleep at night because the hypocrisy is too much. I could deal so much better with you if you just be raggedy 24/7. But this pretending we're one thing until that one thing backs me up into a corner, or you got to hold me accountable, or you got to hold my friends accountable. Now I don't care so much. Now it's not a big deal. Y'all, we heard about them freaking emails with Hillary Clinton. It's people named their children Benghazi because they heard it so much. That's how $100 million for 4 investigations trying to prove that Hillary Clinton did something that either put this country in harm's way, was a threat to national security. She used her personal email server to send some classified documents. I mean, we went through this, Lord, how long? So yeah, George, I hear you on the Pete Hegseth stuff. But the very fact that this man is sitting in that job is problematic. The way they got rid of him is problematic. And I don't know the full extent of it. I just heard about this over the weekend. I got to do some more checking. But the Center for Veterans Issues here in Milwaukee, which to my understanding was actually started by Black vets, has always had Black folks at the helm, at the leadership, over there down off of Walnut. So if I'm hearing this right, and I'm prefacing my comments by saying I don't have all the information and I got to get it, but that with this whole attack on DEI, it kind of seems like there has now been a push to remove the Black person that was running the center, put a white person in place, and that the leadership was changing in the organization. So I'm going to get as much information as I can. But like literally the wholesale removal of Black folks in leadership in the military, and Hegseth, when they got at him about this latest signal scandal, he diverts to DEI is not going to be allowed in the military, and we ain't talking about that. We talking about you. We're talking about you. So we need to pay attention, because if in fact that is true, remember, this is General Cockcroft, and I go back to then when he was there. I haven't kept up with who's become the leadership over time, but it's something we need to pay attention to, because as I said, the way I understand it, it was started by Black vets. But now y'all may not be able to run it. Other folks is going to run it. So that needed to be mentioned. And since I said something about Milwaukee, let me come home for a second. Let me come local. The situation at Rufus King High School. So, like, oh, you leaned into the mic?
Michelle, respectfully, Michelle, I think I'm going back to school. I'm going to enroll in school and do it all over again.
I mean, you know,
Do what all over again?
My high school years, because when we was in school, in order for us to get an A, we had to bring an apple or something.
mm,
Now all you need is swag, and guess who got it? Your boy right here.
a Rufus King high school employee is on leave due to allegations of misconduct. That's the way the story initially gets reported. And now Milwaukee Public Schools and the Milwaukee Police Department are investigating. In an email to a reporter, a police spokesperson said that the department is investigating a report of sex offenses at 1:30 p.m. April 15th at the school. When asked by a reporter if the department was seeking any charges or had made any arrests in the connection to the investigation, they said it was active and open, but there is an employee that has been escorted out the building and has a meeting, from what I understand, over at the administration office today, because allegations have been made that now, you get that. Then you get the parents. I saw two sisters who sat with the reporter and talked about basically their sons, because this is a female uh, educator. Uh, and it seems like there was some inappropriate uh, interactions, contacts, offers that were made between this female teacher to some of these students. One of the young men ends up telling his mom and also reporting what's going on. And yeah, so uh, the one mom, she said in her interview that her son said, quote, he was like, Mom, something really bad is going on, something really bad, talking about at the school. And she said that her son, who's a junior at Rufus King, alerted administration about concerning behavior from one of his teachers with multiple male students. And he went in and he basically blew the whistle, is what his mom said. Her son said he felt uncomfortable with actions taken by the teacher. She, quote, always desired to always be in their presence. So she wanted to be amongst these kids. So, you know, this is a story that I think many of us are familiar with without knowing all the specifics, but that teachers having inappropriate either sexual contact, overtures with male students, or with their students, I should say. So I'll say a little bit more about it on the other side. NPS to make away pony up some bread because they're about to get to it. That's for sure. And I will say this: the stereotype that the boy and a grown woman come for them is cool, is acceptable. Hey, bro, you all right? You got to. But if you were a female high school student, a grown behind male teacher, her, I want to caution people in our community who humor in boys being sexually assaulted by female who trust me today. Grown women who trust me today. Because if it was split, it was your daughter, ain't nobody left. In fact, I'm trying to take a break, Jermaine, right out.
Hey,
I'll be right back.
I'm
And
All right, family, welcome back to the show. So before I took a break, I wanted to mention what was going on over at Rufus King High School. I have said that unfortunately, while shocking, and the young people that are involved are going to need, assistance to deal with everything that they've been exposed to. Some people may or may not understand the long-term impacts of these inappropriate relationships and interactions. But I went back while I was trying to look up some data on how often this occurs and came across an article that was done literally almost a year ago, by James Causey, reporter and he's more than a reporter, with the Journal Sentinel. I got to remember his correct title. But one of the things that James Causey did in this article is he talked about that we were witnessing a trend. Fox News had done a study that had found 349 public educators were arrested for child-related sex crimes in 2022 alone. Couldn't come up with why, adults are doing this stuff, but they have looked at this whole piece of sexual misconduct with educators. Another thing that people have talked about is the proximity in age, because you can have teachers that are 24, 25 years old, 23 years old, haven't been out of high school that long. You can actually sub even at a younger age. If you are somebody that hasn't completed your teacher's education, but you have a college degree, you can sub in classrooms. So this proximity in terms of age is also something that people have thought about and worried about. But Kevin, was it Buelo, 50 years old, former Catholic school teacher, sentenced to 20 years in March for sexually assaulting students in Waukesha and Milwaukee County. Jessica Kelbell, 29 years old, a former special education teacher in Madison, got charged. The stuff she did just out of pocket. Annie Nelson Koch, 75 years old, was convicted on 25 separate counts, all relating to sexual abuse of a teenage boy. She got 10 years in prison, followed by 15 years of probation. 75. I'm going to tell you, Lena and I, then Senator Taylor would always visit correctional facilities. It was a part. She believed that people in these facilities that were from her district were her constituents as well, and she made sure to go check on them on a regular basis. And I remember one time we were going to one of the facilities, or we were in one of the correctional facilities, and I saw this old white woman in jail and up at Cheetah. And I mean, this lady, every bit of 75, 80.
Wow.
And so I said to somebody, I said, damn, what she do? Like, how long you been in jail? And they said she actually hadn't gotten there that long ago. Wow. And I was like, wait, what? And it's like she was sexually abusing kids at her daycare. So this is not a new phenomenon to some extent. Christian Enright, 29 years old, teacher down in Kenosha. He was messing with students. He engaging kids after hours out of school. Rebecca Clips, 35 years old, a former Two Rivers Spanish teacher, found guilty of student sexual assault back in January 2023. I don't know how much time she got, but her husband called the police on her after he was looking through some of her messages. Rachel Goodall, a former Oak Creek High School teacher. Goodall was charged in July with second-degree sexual assault of a child, sexual assault of a student body, school staff for alleged incident. So, I mean, this stuff, it happens, y'all. It absolutely happens. How we protect our kids, how we create environments where kids know to report something. But I'm going to just say this, bruhs dealing with your sons. I know mothers will do this, but even mothers have to think about, and I had to have this conversation because I never thought about a female sexually abusing my son. I just didn't. And if he wasn't around certain kinds of people, I didn't worry about anybody really sexually abusing my son. You realize how misguided that is.
Yeah.
And so I would love for brothers to have conversations with their boys, their sons. Look here, bro. Ain't nobody supposed to be coming for you that's not around your age. And I don't care if that's a teacher. I don't care if that's some of these grown behind women out here in the street, in the neighborhood, in the community. Don't be messing with women that's older than you, significantly older than you. You know, we talking 2 years older than you and up while you are a minor. And this is what you need to be on the lookout for. And let me help you, bro. It ain't because you fine. You are available. You're accessible. It ain't because you got the coldest body in the high school. It's because you look like I can get you. You look naive. You look arrogant. And you gonna think it's because it's you. I'm just taking advantage of you, little boy.
She might be paying too.
A lot of them do. But that's just, and it's not really that I'm paying. It's just the enticer.
Yeah.
So whether it's conversation, whether it's spending time, whether it's letting you drive my car, whether it's putting a few dollars in your pocket, like it ain't like I'm just out here just straight, all of these are things that are used to groom and entice you. But the same way we talk about human trafficking and girls being pulled into the game and into the streets, I need dads to be willing to have these conversations with their sons. Hey, bro, that ain't cute. Some teacher at your school trying to holler at you, that really ain't cute, man. She using you, fam. This ain't love, except for crazy lady who married that boy after they got out of jail. I forgot. Turno, I forgot her name.
They had a couple kids, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy nonsense. But, but that's the thing I need bros to help us with. Is so your sons or your nephews or the young men in your family understand these women ain't got no business coming for you like that. Because the mama's going to tell it. We going to do it. And we going to go whoop somebody behind about messing with our sons. We going to do that. But daddies, I don't know that y'all going to help us out with this message. You got something to say?
Yeah. Back in the day, it used to be painted as if that was like a trophy mark.
Right.
Like I made the joke of how, that we used to have to bring the teacher a apple to get in good standings and things like that. Nowadays, it seems like that it's a lot of female teachers that got this R. Kelly, I don't want to say spirit, but R. Kelly, I guess spirit, if you're gonna say that, which is messing with a lot of young people, and you would never know until they open their mouth and shoot they shot at something young, because they don't, the majority of these people, they don't look like child pedophiles,
right?
But that you get them alone in the room or some sort, and you get them in a comfort zone, then the real comes out.
Well, and I'm glad you used the word pedophile.
Yeah.
Because, making sure people understand this. Grown women ain't interested in children. I don't care what you look like.
Yeah.
Grown men ain't interested in children.
That's right.
I don't care what you look like. It is somebody that is looking for a child, and you're looking for that child for a bunch of reasons: control, access, because that's what you like is younger people. But I'm so glad that we are making sure that we differentiate this behavior when we see it. So I just wanted to say that because that story was disturbing. Like I said, NPS, y'all might as well get ready to cough up that damn bread.
Michelle,
they about to sue the pants off y'all. And Mary Kay Letourneau, thank you. And I want to say to the NPS school district and the lawyers that's going to represent the city or the district in this case, y'all need to pay these people like you're supposed to pay them and compensate them correctly.
Michelle, do you think, and I probably could answer this question myself, but I just want to put it on the table. You think there are those that go into that field because they know they have those tendencies already?
Yeah.
I certainly believe that there are people
Mhm.
that they look at careers of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You get access. That's why some people became Boy Scout troop leaders,
Mm-hmm.
because you like being around little boys, messing with little boys. So
Yeah.
you put yourself in position to have access. So definitely, Debo.
I mean, just to actually piggyback off of that, just in all kind of fields, like, and I'm gonna use my field in the music field, and I hear this a lot. A lot of people that's in the field, artists, music producers, they get in the field and they get to working with artists, especially when it's a male producer working with a female artist. The whole thing is, let me see how far she would go. Even though we working and doing the music, let me see if I can. And then if she show some kind of sign, yeah, we gonna keep doing music, but it's gonna shift over to, hey, can I see you after this? And that's, I mean, people get into the field.
It's predatory in nature to an extent. Like, I'm doing the work, but I'm also using this as a way to pick up women, as a way to sleep with folks. I mean, it's almost the same thing, like any situation, somebody, I had this conversation. I'm about to say something like kind of off, but people gonna get mad, but okay. One of the things somebody said, talking about, because somebody just said something about not dating white women. Okay. And so the whole conversation ended up going to athletes and the whole 9 yards. And one of the things I said is, a lot of them end up dating on some level too, the folks that's around.
Yeah.
And I said, and while there's some sisters out there trying to be in them spaces, we ain't killing ourselves to be in them spaces.
Yeah.
I'm not doing all of that. I'm not no damn groupie. I'm not hanging around. You ain't colder than me. I don't care how much money you make. So there are some things that it happens because of how people position themselves. And then you in our people's faces, and like I said, that mess with Damon Wayans. That girl followed our limo and kept on until she got his attention, and then he invites her to get in the car with us. And I'm looking at him like, what is you doing? With a wife at home pregnant. But anyway, another story. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Yes. Good morning, Miss Michelle Bryant.
Hey, JT, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing wonderful, and thank you, and yourself.
I'm good.
And good morning to Mr. Devo.
Good morning, JT.
And good morning to Mr. Jermaine Right Out.
Good morning, JT Senior.
All right, JT Junior. Behave yourself now, because I'm looking at you.
Yes, sir.
I got my belt.
Respectfully, sir, I'm acting right.
Hey, Michelle.
Yes.
Not to necessarily get off the subject you're talking about this morning, because it's very important. And once upon a time, our parents, I don't know if we still do, maybe some of us still do, but used to explain to our kids at a very young age, certain people don't supposed to touch you or behave around you a certain kind of way.
Right.
So they know how to call you or how to protect themselves. So you're right. We need to let our kids know what's going on, so that they don't have to fall into that unfortunate situation. What I really called for, Michelle, I'm tell you what got my goat over this weekend. I was reading the Milwaukee Sunday's paper.
Jermaine. Go ahead,
Hello?
JT. I'm listening.
Okay. Yes, Michelle, I was reading the Sunday's Journal, and I noticed they had an article in there referring to the buildings on 6th and Walnut.
Yep.
Okay, that I believe it's Dr. Claiborne Bisson was advocating for how many years, so they wouldn't tear it down and keep it as a historical site.
Right.
Well, they had a write-up in the Milwaukee Journal talking about that, and guess who they gave the credit to as far as trying to advocate to keep it not being torn down. And
Mr. Root, we talked about it on the show last week.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, you might have missed it, but we did talk about
that. I probably did. Yeah, that got my good to see that they gave the credit to the Salvation Army and a few white people. And that's because the Salvation Army is supposed to own the buildings right now. And they didn't even mention Dr. Claiborne Benson at all.
Well, yep, that's why we brought it up on the show to make sure
Oh,
that he was also
okay.
acknowledged. So I appreciate that,
Okay.
JT.
I'm sorry. I missed that. Michelle.
You okay? You all
Mhm.
right?
All
All
right.
right.
Have a good day, everybody.
All right. Thank you, JT. Look, y'all, I want to definitely, like, I got a list of like, oh my God, 20, probably about 25 things. I'm gonna have to spread this out over the course of the week. But let me take a second. The shooting that happened at Florida State University on last Thursday. So I was waiting. And if you look at mainstream media, you still waiting. Because this student, or this young man, I should say, his mother is a deputy sheriff. And he gets one of her guns and goes to the campus and, ends up killing 2 people, shooting and injuring 6 others. This boy's grandmother did an interview in People magazine. Her name is Susan Erickson. She is the biological maternal grandmother. So it's his mama's mama of Phoenix Eichner, this gunman from the April 17th mass shooting. And she said that his father and stepmother had negatively influenced him before the shooting. She said they, quote, they taught him how to hunt. They're bigoted people. They hated a lot of people. The grandmother called her daughter and her son-in-law rotten bastard people. She did this interview with the Daily Mail, and she said that he was the sweetest kid, smart, but that because his parents were so rotten and racist, that this child, who's now grown, 20 years old, ends up with these very messed up views. So here is the 20-year-old stepmother is Leon County Sheriff's Deputy Jessica Eichner. We had just found a new phone number a couple of months ago and tried to call the house, and the father picked up the phone, hung up, and changed the number. That was Chrissy Blank, referring to Phoenix's father. Susan is the mother of his, again, this is his grandmother. I'm trying to look for this portion that I wanted to mention. Because there was where she got more specific. But in any case, they are now, and he has survived. So we'll be able to hear from him. But they said that he was a fascist and a white supremacist. This is what several students on the campus have said. I said before, he got kicked out of a student political group because they said his views were too extreme on the right. He espoused so much white supremacy rhetoric and far right rhetoric. He had continually made enough people feel uncomfortable where certain people had stopped coming to the political group meetings before they put him out. And they finally said, you got to go. He talked about the ravages of multiculturalism. It was ruining America. But the police have really not yet shared a motive for the killings. This is not hard to find out. It's not hard to find out at all. And this county that his mother lives in, Leon County, if I'm not mistaken, and let me see if this is right, because there's a story as we look at everything that's going on with ICE right now and these deportation flights and folks being sent to El Salvador. Got to get to what the Supreme Court ends up saying, like, we're going to put a hold on this, even though it's temporary. They had flights on the tarmac ready to take off, people being bussed and put on these planes. And they actually had an interview with the gentleman who said we had got put on the plane and then we were taken off and we didn't know what was happening. But that was because of this 1 a.m. ruling by the Supreme Court that down in Texas, slow your roll. Y'all need to slow y'all roll because people are not getting due process. We don't fully understand what's going on with what y'all doing with these deportations. But there was a and I just want to make sure I'm right, that it was Leon County. It was. So there was a story that I also just read about a guy by the name of Juan uh, Carlos Lopez Gomez, 20 years old. He lives in Georgia, but he was a part of a work crew that was going to work in Florida, down in Tallahassee. So while they were driving and had crossed over from Georgia into Florida, his car that he is a passenger in gets pulled over by the sheriff because they said that they were speeding. Now, this is Leon County Jail. I mean, Leon County Sheriff's Department, where the shooter from Florida's mother is a sheriff. So, in the process of pulling over the driver, the sheriff then looks around and asks the passengers in the car for their ID. Now, I'm not driving the car. Why are you talking to me? I just got a ticket up in Minnesota, bringing Keisha back from the the Mayo Clinic. Ain't nobody did nobody get talked to but me. The police didn't say, "Hey, who is this? Who is this? Who is this?" It was three of us in the car. He engaged me, and I got the ticket. Okay, but this sheriff in Leon County, again, where the shooter's mother works as a sheriff, says, "I need ID from everybody. Run me the ID." This guy, the 20-year-old, is the passenger. He gives him his ID. The sheriff pulls him out of the car and says, "Yeah, I don't really believe this is your ID, or I don't believe this is you." So he arrested this 20-year-old and had him detained to turn over to ICE. This young man is an American-born citizen, 20 years old. He had his social security card, he had his state ID card, and he had his birth certificate. He showed the sheriff his social security card when he got asked for ID. And that sheriff didn't care. He turned this boy over to ICE. ICE wanted him to remain there for 48 hours while they looked into who this young man was. The young man's mother gets wind of what happened, and she goes to try to advocate for her son. Ultimately, they're able to get him out. But this is because, and I just want to end the show here. I talked about it on the show. Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law that said that if you were an illegal immigrant and you entered into Florida, that they could arrest and detain you, charge you with a misdemeanor, blah, blah, blah. And that is what they used to turn this young man over to ICE. If this boy didn't have nobody looking for him and checking for him, he is an American citizen, born in this country, born in Georgia. But because and the likelihood that the racist police officer whose son went and shot up Florida State University, one of her racist colleagues, decided, "Oh, you want Carlos? You an essay? You must be an illegal. You got ID? Don't get no anyway." ICE. So all y'all that's like, y'all care about what's happening to these, why y'all care about what's happening to these immigrants? Because as I have said so many others, this has implications for all of us, including U.S. citizens born in this country. When is the news going to talk about the fact that this boy's mom and dad, and you teach your son racist nonsense, and he goes, and then on my way out the door, that the university, all of their ignorance, says shooting happened on Thursday, classes resumed on Monday. And the kids said, "We you open up whatever you want to, we not." So they had to backpedal and give the kids more time off because this is becoming so commonplace, so commonplace. and there were kids who had attended high school at Marjorie Stoneman who went to a school shooting as high school students who are now at Florida State University and went to another school shooting. Welcome to America. I started the show. This is who we are. This is who we are. All right, y'all. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Thank you, colleagues. Appreciate you, bro.